Good morning, students. Today we are going to do the demonstration of clinical examination of cranial nerves. So it is a very important part of the nervous system examination, clinical examination of the nervous system examination. It is a part and parcel of the nervous system examination. So it may be affected, cranial nerves may be affected in various conditions of the brain, or maybe meninges, or it may be because independently each nerve may be affected, or it may be some systemic diseases, cranial nerves may be involved. So for that we should know how to examine cranial nerves one by one. So both sides we have to do simultaneously, and we have to draw the conclusion if there is any deficit of any particular cranial nerve, or all the cranial nerves may be integrated and no abnormality. So for that we have to examine. So we start with the first cranial nerve, the olfactory nerve. So in the olfactory nerve, I am going to talk about the method of examination. The remaining things I will deal in the subsequent class. So for this method, we will test each nostril at a time. Usually we will ask the subject to close his eyes and close his one nostril, and we bring the known odor substance close to his nostril, and then we will ask whether he can identify it. If he is identifying that, whether the smell is normally is perceiving, or whether it is decreased sense or no sensation, no olfactory sensation at all. So these things we have to observe, and simultaneously on the other side also ask the subject to close his other nostril and then open the previous nostril. So you keep on the other side also. So you examine all these substances by identifying the substances by its odor. So usually we use the common odorous substances like coffee powder or camphor or the asafoetida, that is ingua in Telugu, and agarbatti. Now I am using these four substances for testing the olfaction. So let us see how the test should be conducted. హలో వినోద్, ఈరోజు నీ నర్వస్ సిస్టమ్ ఎగ్జామినేషన్ భాగంగా అన్ని క్రేనియల్ నర్వ్స్ అని ఉంటాయి, వాటిని టెస్ట్ చేస్తున్నాము. దానికి నీ సహకారం కావాలి. నీకు ఎలాంటి ఇబ్బంది ఉండదు, నీకు ఎలాంటి హాని కానీ ఇబ్బంది ఉండదు. నువ్వు చెప్పిన విధంగా చేసి నీకు ఏమనిపిస్తోందో అది చెప్పాలి. సో ఫస్ట్ కళ్ళు మూసుకోండి. ఒకవైపు ముక్కు మూసుకొని నేను ఒక పదార్థాన్ని మీ ముక్కు దగ్గర తెస్తాను. ఏం సబ్స్టెన్స్ చెప్పండి, వాసన పీల్చి. Yes, you can identify the coffee powder, the smell of the coffee. Yes, he is able to identify the asafoetida smell. So I tested on one nostril on the right side. Now I am going to test on the left side.
coffee powder.
Yes, he is able to identify the coffee powder with the left nostril also.
Ingava.
Asafoetida.
Karpuram. Agarbatti.
తీసే మీకు రెండు వైపులా గుర్తుపడుతున్నారు, రెండు ఒకే రకంగా ఉందా, ఏమన్నా ఒక వైపు తగ్గినట్లు ఏమన్నా అనిపిస్తోంది? రెండు ఒకే. సో ఈజ్ ఏబుల్ టు పర్సీవ్ ద ఓడర్ ఈక్వల్లీ ఆన్ బోత్ నాస్ట్రిల్స్ వితౌట్ ఎనీ decrease or increase on one side. So that means his olfactory sense is normal, so olfactory nerve tested to be normal. So here the applied aspects, sometimes in certain conditions the olfaction may be affected, like the common thing sometimes we may see in everybody experiences this one, like common cold. So when the common cold, if the stuffy nose, you may not able to perceive as normal, your olfaction may be decreased. That is called hyposmia. If not at all able to identify the smell, we call it as anosmia. So the best example is now during this COVID season, that is one of the symptoms. Patient usually complains about loss of smell, loss of taste. So anosmia is one of the complaints of or symptoms of COVID. The other conditions, like it may be unilateral or bilateral. So bilateral or unilateral, some of the conditions we will go through in detail later, clinical conditions. First you learn how to examine, then we will discuss other aspects. So that is about first cranial nerve, olfactory nerve. So we will move on to the second cranial nerve, that is optic nerve. In the optic nerve we are going to examine the visual acuity. Under visual acuity we are testing the distant vision and near vision, so separately. As well, the next is the field of vision we are going to test, and then the color vision. Under optic nerve, that is second cranial nerve, we are testing three components of optic nerve testing, that is the visual acuity, that is the sharpness of the perception of the image clearly. So in that the distant vision as well as near vision. So the distant vision we are using the Snellen's chart. We are using the Snellen's chart, and for the near vision we are testing the Jiger's chart. So we will talk about when we are examining this. And for for the field of vision we are testing by confrontation method, that is the bedside method. It is not a very accurate method, but it is easy to perform. So it is a rough method to estimate the field of vision defects. And the third one we test it by Ishihara's chart, that is color vision, by the lithographic plates of Ishihara. So those things I will demonstrate to you now. So first we will go to the distant vision. Distant vision, visual acuity, we are testing the distant vision from a distance of 6 meters. We are keeping the Snellen's chart at a distance of 6 meters, and the subject has to read with each eye, closing the other eye, and he has to read all the lines of alphabets are arranged in such a way. So there are usually 7 or 8 rows of alphabets are present, and each is designed in such a way that the topmost letter row is a person can able to read from a distance of 60 meters, and next line, that is 36 meters, and the third 24, fourth one 18, then 12, 9, 6. Some charts are having 8 lines, that is even 5 meters. That is usual practice of the distant vision. We record the small d by capital D, that is visual acuity for distant vision, small d by capital D, the formula. Small d means from where the subject is seeing the Snellen's chart, that is usual distance is 6 meters, that is 6, whereas capital D is each letter designed in the Snellen's chart. A normal individual, normal eyesight, he can read from, say for example, first line he can read from a 60 meters. Like that, the 7th line he can read from a distance of 6 meters. So if you are able to read the 7th line, your vision is normal, distant vision is normal, that is we record it as 6 by 6. Small d is 6 and capital D is also 6, that is normal. Sometimes if 8 lines are there, the 8th line a normal person can read from 5. That is, if a person can read from 6 meters, that is more than normal. So that can be taken as normal vision, distant vision. So 7th line if you read, it is 6 by 6. If you read even the 8th line, that is 6 by 5, both you can consider it as normal. So if you are not able to read the last line, that is 7th line, then if he is able to read the 6th line, his visual acuity is 6 by 9. Like that you go. Suppose if the person is able to read only the first line, then his visual acuity for distant vision is 6 by 60. Suppose even that also not able to read, then we will make the person to move a 1 meter closer. So we will ask him to stand at 5 meters and then we will ask him to read the first line. If he is able to read from 5 meters, his visual acuity is 5 by 60. Even then he is not able to read, then you move to 4 meters. Even there also he is not able to read, then move to 3, then move to 2, then move to 1 meter. So even at 1 meter he is not able to read the first line, then you have to do the other 3 tests. We call it as the finger counting. Finger counting. You keep the fingers in front of the subject and ask him to read how many fingers. And if that is okay, that is finger counting positive. If not able to read, then you move your fingers, your hand in front of the face of the person, and whether he is able to perceive the movement of your hand. Even that also not able to do, then you throw the light into his eyes and ask him to whether he is able to perceive the light. If he is able to perceive the light, that is perception of light plus, or if not able to perceive the light, he is totally blind in that eye. So that is how we are testing. So we will start examining this boy for right eye first, then we will see the left eye. I will ask him to read from
E, T, B, D, L, N, P, T, E, R, Z, B, D, E, C, W, H, Z, D, R.
లాస్ట్ లైన్ కనపడుతుందా?
L, P, O, R, F, N, Z.
ఓకే, ఈ అయితే చూడు.
E, T,
లాస్ట్ లైన్ కనపడుతుంది చూడు.
B, D, L, N, P, T, E, R, F, Z, B, D, E, O, E, L, Z, R, A, L, P, O, H, R, A, Z.
So he is able to read the 7th line. So his visual acuity for right eye 6/6 and for left eye also 6/6. Suppose he is not able to read, say 7th line, as I said, able to read up to 6, it is 6/9. If he is able to read 5th line, that is 6/12. If he is able to read only 4th line, it is 6/24, 18. And the 3rd line 24, 2nd line 6/36, 1st line only, that is 6/60. So in that case, even the first line he cannot read, then we will ask the subject to stand at 5 meters and ask him to read the first line only.
E, T, E,
చాలు అక్కడ. So we will చాలు ఫస్ట్ దే మాత్రం. So he is able to read. So he is a normal person. I am just giving an example. So he is able to read from 6 meters, no problem. So in case even he is not able to read from 6 meters, we are moving him to 5 meters. So we marked 4 meters, 3 meters, 2 meters and 1 meter. So even then he is unable to read the first letter, that is first line. Then I will do the finger counting.
5.
So if he is able to find out, so finger counting, he is able to read finger counting, he is able to do. If that also not there, then we will do the hand movement, that is HM, previously FC, and third one, that also even hand movement also not able to perceive, then we will do the light perception. So we throw the light into the eye and ask him to perceive the light at least, If he is able to perceive the light, then we say is able PL is plus. So that is how we do the for distant vision. For uneducated people, these Snell and Short alphabets, English alphabets. So if an uneducated person comes for testing, then you have to use a modified Snell and Short with the letters of E, different sizes of E. So we will ask the direction of the E, the what is the direction of the extensions of E, what is the direction, whether it is towards right or left or down or up, like that, or C. So where is the gap, we will ask which side the gap, whether it is right side, left side, like that. If it is a child not able to read the English alphabets, then it is modified into these letters, the pictorial diagrams suitable to subtend the same visual angle over the eye. So that is how it is changed, and that is about the distant vision. Coming to the near vision, so as I said, this is called Jiger's chart, and a person we keep to read the chart at a distance of reading distance 25 to 30 centimeters or 10 to 12 inches distance, and here in this there are, you can see different font sizes starting with N5, and this is N5 up to N36 or N48. The size varies, and the person is able to read at a distance of 25 to 30 centimeters, that is 10 to 12 inches distance, usual reading distance for a normal young adult. You can do it with each eye separately, or you can ask the subject to read with both eyes together. So ఇది నీ మామూలుగా చదివే డిస్టెన్స్లో పెట్టుకొని ఇది ఇంకా కొంచెం ఇది కనబడుతూ ఉందా, చదవగలవా?
Is 10 years old.
So, okay. So he is able to read the smallest print, so that his visual acuity for near vision is N5. You record it as near vision, NV, as N5. If he is not able to read, we ask to read the next font, that is N8. Even that also not possible, N12. Like that we move, and whichever font he is able to read, we will record it that. So distant vision, sorry, near vision. So that is about visual acuity. The visual acuity is the resolving power of the eye. I think all of you might have learned what do you mean by resolving power. The ability to identify two nearest points, closest points as distinctive and separate, that is, say for example two lines. What is the minimum distance you can identify it as two distinctive and separate lines? That means that is the resolving power. So this is depends on the color or the size and the contours, all these things. So by that you can identify the vision. Usually this is mainly visual acuity is more in the center of the retina, that is fovea, that is macula. So macular vision we call it as. So whereas it goes, more cones are present. So you can, visual acuity mainly depends on the cones, functioning of cones. If you go peripherally, the visual acuity may be decreased. So That is how the ophthalmologist will test for distant vision and near vision. So after that, the third component, so field of vision, we are testing accurately by an instrument called perimetry. So this is the perimetry, Lister's perimetry we use for testing. This is Lister's perimeter, you can accurately figure out the field of vision. So the field of vision is the ability of the eye to identify the extent of the external world that can be seen when the gaze is fixed. If you fix your gaze to a particular point and you are able to see to some extent the other things also, so that is called field of vision. So that is, we are testing each eye separately. So in the medial portion, mid portion, there is overlapping binocular vision, we call it as, there is overlapping of field of vision. So usually if you do with the perimeter, the extent of vision, field of vision, that is maximum on the temporal side, that is because there is no obstruction on the temporal side, you will have 100 degrees extent you can see. Whereas if you go down, your cheek may come, so to some extent it is restricting your field of vision. So the field of vision may be 75 degrees. And if you go to the nasal side, that is medial, that is your nasal bridge is obstructing, so your field of vision will be only 60 degrees. Similarly, if your supraorbital ridge is obstructing your upper quadrant, so your field of vision will be 60 degrees in the upper quadrant, like that. But this is a little bit time taking, and you need Lister's perimeter and all those gadgets. So for that, for easy bedside practice, we do a test called confrontation test. This is it is not very accurate, but it is easy, and we can come to a reasonable conclusion by whether there is any restriction of the field of vision in that particular subject. So for that, this confrontation, there are certain prerequisites for this confrontation, and those things, the subject, the distance between the subject and the examiner must be 3 feet or at least 1 meter distance, and both eyes must be at the same level, that is subjects as well as the examiner's eye must be at the same level. And we are going to test one eye at a time. So we will ask the subject to close one eye, the opposite eye this examiner has to close. So, and we instruct the subject to see the tip of the nose of the examiner, and the examiner will point out and fix his gaze, seeing is the subject's tip of nose. Then we will bring a finger in the mid plane between the subject and the examiner. We will bring from outer to inner side, where the subject is able to identify the finger. Then he says stop, so he is able to see. Whether the examiner also able to see it at the same level, and in this case, presuming that the examiner's field of vision is normal, so we are comparing the examiner's field of vision to the subject. If both are able to identify at the same point, that means his field of vision also normal. That is how we are testing this confrontation method, the field of vision test. And we will go in detail the other aspects of the field defects, and now I will limit my class to method only. So here I will instruct the subject. చూడే నాకు డైరెక్ట్గా చూడు, నా ముక్కును చూస్తుండు, కళ్ళు తిప్పొద్దు, నేను ఈ వేలు ఇట్లా తీసుకొని వచ్చినప్పుడు నీకు ఎక్కడ కనబడుతుందని ఇట్లా చేయగానే చెప్పాలి. తర్వాత ఒక కన్ను మూసుకో, ఆ కన్ను మూసుకో. సో he is closing his right eye, I am closing my left eye, and I am seeing his nose only, I am not changing my movements, and he is also seeing my nose. So I will bring from the outer quadrant in between subject and the examiner. So నీకు ఎక్కడ కనబడుతుందో చెప్పు. కనబడుతుందా? Now he is able to see, I am also able to see at the same point. ఇప్పుడు చూడు. So I am also able to see the finger from the medial side. So he is able to recognize the upper from upper quadrant, is able to see at this level. I am also able to see at this level. So this is the extent of lower quadrant. He is able to recognize the finger at this level. Similarly we do on the other side also. So we will do with the same pattern, we will do on the other side also, and we will decide whether there is any restriction of his field of vision, and at different levels if you go through the visual pathway. So the from the retina the fibers goes to the optic nerve and optic chiasma, where the nasal half of the fibers are decussating or going to the other side of the optic tract. So from both sides it is crossing over, and the temporal side the fibers are going to the same side, and then it is forming after optic chiasma, it is forming the optic tract. Then it is majority of the fibers are ending in the lateral geniculate body of the thalamus. From there the optic radiation, and it is going to the the visual cortex in the occipital lobe. So that is the primary visual cortex, area 17. So suppose if the optic nerve is cut or there is lesion, you will get anopia, that is complete loss of vision. Suppose if anything that is causing damage at the optic chiasma, especially in the middle portion, for example commonest tumors of the pituitary and pituitary gland, that will press over the optic chiasma. So if the middle fibers are pressed and damaged, so the nasal fibers both sides are damaged, so the field of vision is temporal. So the rays coming from the opposite side are going to the suppose if the rays coming from temporal side is falling on the nasal side, and the rays coming from the nasal side is falling on the temporal side of the retina, so the nasal fibers are affected, means when the temporal field of vision is affected. So it is bitemporal hemianopia. Hemianopia means one half of the field of vision is gone, we call it as hemianopia. If complete loss of vision, we call it as anopia. And then after that, suppose that is actually there is another thing. If both sides lesion is on the same side of a person, then we call it as homonymous hemianopia. If it is on different sides, say this temporal hemianopia is temporal side of the right eye and temporal side of the left eye. That means right of right and left of left. So the half is side, if you take left or right, it is differing. One side it is right, one side it is left. So it is heteronymous hemianopia. After that, if the lesion by nasal hemianopia, if it is compressing the temporal fibers, then you get binasal hemianopia, may not be that common. And coming to the optic tract, you get the homonymous hemianopia. If it is right tract is affected, you get homonymous hemianopia of the left. So left halves are affected, that is homonymous hemianopia. Suppose from geniculate body and from optic radiation, that is homonymous hemianopia with macular sparing, because macular area occupies larger area, so the lesion must be very big to cause anopia even in the macular region. So that is called the homonymous hemianopia with macular sparing. So that is briefly about the lesions of field of vision. Coming to the third component of optic nerve, that is the visual field of color vision. So we test the color vision by using these lithographic plates. It is a different color spots are there, and with a different background and different colored numbers are given, and or it may be some pathway like this. The person has to identify that pathway. See, this is the number hidden in this, so it is a confusing color combination. If a normal color vision, you can identify it by so different numericals or maybe pathways are there. You have to identify those things, and suppose if a person is not able to recognize that numerical, sometimes color blind people may identify it as different numerical. So usually in this Ishihara's chart book, they have given an index where how the different color color blind person will be perceive it as what number he will read it. So that index we are not following now, but strictly speaking, you have to see if a color blind, you encounter color blind person, he may read it as a different number. Suppose here I will show you. ఇది ఇంకా ఇది నెంబర్ సో ఇక్కడ ఒక దారి లాగా ఉంది, ఆ దారి కనుక్కో చేత్తో. So this is a numerical of 8. He is able to read it correctly and he is able to trace the pathway with his finger. So his color of vision is normal. Suppose if he is a color blind, he may read it some other numerical. So then you have to verify with the index what is the letter he told, then you can find out which color is defective. So I think you are all aware of the theories of color vision, the Helmholtz, Young Helmholtz theory, and the other theories. So maybe there are three types of cones, primary colors of red, green and blue. So if it is weakness or whether it is total blindness, if it is weakness, anopia we call it as, and if it is blind, sorry, anomaly, if it is weakness is anomaly, the blindness is anopia. Sorry to spell mistakenly. So this is anopia means complete blindness, anomaly means weakness. So it may be three colors, cones may be absent, trichromats, dichromats and monochromats. So it may be trittanopia or protanopia. Like that we will divide the color blindness. And one more thing, at your level, first year student must know the what type of inheritance it is. So it is the gene is on the X chromosome. So usually the inheritance is from mother to child. So the male persons are the affected, they manifest the color blind, whereas female, because it is a recessive gene, so unusual for both X chromosomes having the abnormal gene, so they are carriers and males are mostly affected. So that is about the color blindness, color vision. So coming to the other cranial nerves, we will see 3, 4 and 6 cranial nerve together, that is oculomotor, trochlear and abducent nerves together, because they collectively supply the extraocular muscles and they are involved in the ocular movements, so the eye movements. So we are examining not separately 3 cranial nerves together, 3, 4, 6, that is the ocular. So the muscles of muscles that are supplied by the ocular nerve is the except superior oblique and lateral rectus, the other 4 muscles are supplied. So superior oblique is supplied by the 4th nerve, the trochlea, and the lateral rectus is supplied by the abducent nerve, 6th cranial nerve. So for an easy remembrance, you have a mnemonic SO4. If you remember it as SO4, superior oblique, 4th nerve, trochlear. LR6, that is lateral rectus, that is the abducent. See the other 4 muscles like medial rectus, superior rectus, inferior rectus and inferior oblique are supplied by the oculomotor. Apart from that, the intraocular muscles also supplied by the oculomotor. So that is ciliary muscles and sphincter pupillae, all these things are supplied by the oculomotor nerve. So first, for this testing, we will see a person is having any nystagmus, that is involuntary rhythmic movements of the eyeball, so that is nystagmus. And apart from that, so for the 3, 4, 6, we will observe whether there is any ptosis, because ptosis is drooping of the upper eyelid. So the eyelid is drooping because the oculomotor nerve is supplying the small muscle of the upper eyelid, that is levator palpebrae superioris. So if that is paralyzed, the upper eyelid will be coming down, so that is called ptosis. And other aspects, as I said, the nystagmus, jerky movements of the eyeball, rhythmic jerky movements of the eyeball is called nystagmus. One of the reasons for that is the oculomotor disturbance. So for testing 346, I am testing the conjugated movements of the eyeball as well, and then for the pupillary reflexes, that is light reflex. In light reflex, again the direct light reflex and consensual light reflex, and then I am testing the accommodation reflex. So I start with the eyeball movements, conjugated movements, that is both eyes moving to one side or other, that is called conjugated. We are not testing each eye separately. Conjugated movements, suppose if I ask him to see this finger, he has to move his left eye as well as right eye. So that is what I am going to demonstrate for you. So for that, you keep a finger and take the finger towards the now you can see his left eye is going outward and medial eye is coming, right eye is coming medialwards. That is going outwards, that is abduction, going towards the midline, that is called adduction. So you have seen abduction of the left eye and adduction of the right eye. For this, the muscle is the lateral rectus of the left eye and the medial rectus of the right eye. Similarly, after going there, now he is seeing in abducted position upwards, that is superior rectus of the left eye and the inferior oblique of the right eye, inferior oblique of the right eye and the superior rectus of the left eye. So in the abducted position, elevation, that is called elevation, is by the recti or depression by inferior rectus, whereas in the medial rotation and movement upwards or downwards is by superior oblique and inferior oblique. Superior oblique, it comes down. Suppose if you want to see your nose, you have to do medial as well as down, that is by the superior oblique, and if you want to see up, that is the inferior oblique muscle. So now I am asking him to see upwards. As I said, this side it is superior rectus and this side it is inferior oblique. So now he is able to see my finger. So because the depressed on the left side because of the inferior rectus and this side because of the superior oblique muscle. Similarly, after that you come this way and do this side. So same way. Now you have to test the movement of the eyeball. So going towards the midline, adduction, lateral deviation, that is abduction, elevation and depression. So if it is medial rotation and down, that is because of the superior oblique. Medial rotation and seeing upwards, that is because of the inferior oblique. And in the abducted position, if you elevate your eye, that is because of the superior rectus, and if you go down in the abducted position, that is inferior rectus, and horizontally if you go lateral, that is lateral rectus, and this one towards the midline, medial rectus. So these 6 muscles we are using for the eye movements, eyeball movements. So after that we will test the light reflex, that is pupillary reflexes, light reflex and consensual, direct and consensual light reflex, as well the accommodation reflex. It comes under the pupillary reflexes. So for direct light reflex, you use a torch, ask him to see, and you bring the lighted torch from side, don't focus from front, you bring it from side and see what are the changes you are observing in both eyes. Or you can keep a partition like this and you focus from front and you see the reaction in both eyes. So I am focusing light on this left eye. I am able to see the size of the pupil is decreased, constriction of pupil, and at the same time I am able to see constriction on the right side also. So this is if I stimulate the eye where I am focusing, that is on the left side, that is direct light reflex. So because of the stimulus, it is pupil is reacting and the size of the pupil is decreasing, that is constriction. Whereas though it is not directly stimulated this eye, but still you are able to see the reaction, pupillary reaction, that is constriction of the pupil. That is what we call it as consensual light reflex or indirect light reflex. So this is directly stimulating. Same way if you stimulate this side, you can see constriction on the other side also. Same side constriction as well as in both eyes you are seeing. That is this side if I throw light, this is direct light reflex. If I observe constriction on the other side, other eye, that is indirect light reflex. So this is light reflex, how to examine, and the accommodation. See, when we are seeing at a distant place, distant object, and suddenly we change our gaze, and if you happen to see the near object, then there are certain changes takes place. Those changes are we consider or describe under accommodation reflex. So there is a reflex changes taking place. So what are those reflexes? చూడు వినోద్, దూరంగా చూస్తుండు, నేను సడన్గా చెయ్యి నేను ముందరకు తెస్తాను, అక్కడి నుంచి సడన్గా ఈ పక్కకు చూడు, క్లోజప్ రాగలవా? చూడు అక్కడ చూస్తా ఉండు, మధున్ దట్ చూడు డైరెక్ట్గా చూడు. So what we are observing, when I bring the object close to his face, I am observing the convergence of eyeballs. Both eyeballs are going medially, that is convergence of eyeballs. And I noticed constriction of pupil. So there is a narrowing of the pupil, constriction of the pupil I observed. And we can there is one more change happens, that is the curvature of the lens also changes. So the both anterior curvature and posterior curvature also changes, that you cannot directly see. That for knowing the curvature change, it becomes more convex, so the lens becomes more convex. So for that there is another separate test you have to do, that is called Purkinje-Sampson images test. So usually we do it in a dark room with a candle lit, and if you bring that candle, if you lit a candle in a dark room, you see usually three images, that is anterior curvature of the cornea causes a image, and the anterior curvature of the lens will cause another image, and the third image is the caused by the posterior curvature of the lens. And some books describes four images, that is anterior curvature of the cornea, posterior curvature of the cornea, anterior curvature of the lens, and posterior curvature. So these four images, when you bring it, one image will be increased, that is the image formed by the anterior curvature of the lens will be more bright and more magnified. So that means the curvature is increased, that's how it is magnified. So that is how you can assess the third change, that is the anterior curvature of the lens is increased to accommodate. So what are the three components? One is the convergence of eyeballs, second one is constriction of pupil, third one is the anterior curvature, increased anterior curvature. So that third observation you cannot make it directly by this test, but you have to do Purkinje-Sampson image testing. So that is the light reflexes. So the pupillary reflex and accommodation reflex. Under pupillary reflex, light reflex. Under light reflex, again direct light reflex and indirect light reflex. There is consensual light reflex and accommodation reflex you are doing. So that completes the 3, 4, 6. So in the first part there is one more nerve we have to test, that is trigeminal. So trigeminal is having three divisions. One is ophthalmic division, and second one is maxillary, third one is mandibular. So these three divisions, so this trigeminal nerve is a mixed nerve, both sensory and motor components are there. In the these two divisions, that is ophthalmic as well as maxillary, are purely sensory, and the third division, that is mandibular division, is the both sensory as well as the motor. So for testing the it is supplying the phase, the sensory part. So usually from the vertex, from the outer canthus, if you draw a line like this, so this extent is skin is supplied by the ophthalmic, and from here to here this is by the maxillary, from here to down is the mandibular division. So in the ophthalmic division it includes the upper eyelid and the nasal bridge, nasal mucosa, the maxillary, lower lid, and the upper jaw and the teeth. So and the roof of the oral cavity, lower mandibular, lower jaw, that is mandible, as well as the teeth, and so that is how it is the divides. So here it is a general sensations. So we are testing, as you all know, how to test the general sensations like fine touch, crude touch, and the pain, temperature, vibration. These things we are going to test on each division. So suppose if you are testing here, so fine touch, I think just I'll bring some recollection. So you make a wisp of cotton and ask him to identify whether he is perceiving the sensation or not by asking him to close the eyes. Close just. తెలుస్తా అంటే తెలుస్తుంది. So he is able to perceive. Similarly maxillary division, similarly mandibular division. So that is on the other side also you have to test. So keep in mind always clinical examination, both sides you have to examine simultaneously. So like that you test it by taking a common pin and you test the pain sensation, and then you test the temperature by cold and hot water. You take cold water and hot water in two tubes and keep it over that and ask him whether it is cold or hot. So like that చెప్పు. So ఇది hot ఇది. So like that you are testing the temperature, and then what about the, so that is vibration also. You can keep a tuning fork over the bony prominence, or you can test it vibration sense. And coming to the motor component, that is mandibular division, you have to test the muscles of mastication. The muscles of mastication, that is masseter and temporalis. So for that testing you ask the subject to clench his teeth tightly and feel the masseter and temporalis. నువ్వు గట్టిగా పళ్ళు కొరుకు గట్టిగా. So I am able to see the contracted hard masseter muscle as well as temporalis, contracted temporalis muscle. So that is, and there is one more thing you can do, the motor component, the jaw jerk. So like any other thing you can do with a knee hammer. You ask the subject to open slightly his mouth. కొద్దిగా ఓపెన్ చేయి, లూజ్గా పెట్టు, కొద్దిగా ఓపెన్ చేయి కొంచెం కొంచెం ఓపెన్ చేయి, ఇంకొకరు. So you keep your finger over that gap below the lower lip and you hit it over your nail. So usually it will shut, the subject will reflexly shut his mouth. So that is jaw jerk. So you keep your finger over the semi opened mouth and hit over your nail. So the by reflexly it will close. So that is the jaw jerk. That is how you will test. Is you are testing the reflexes, that is conjunctival reflex and corneal reflex. So what you have to do, I will tell the procedure because it is not a sterile wish. I don't want to do any injury to his conjunctiva or cornea. So I will tell the procedure. You ask him to wide open his eye. You bring the wisp, the pointed wisp of cotton, close to his eye from side. Don't bring it from the front. He may afraid he will blink automatically. Don't do that. You bring it suddenly and touch the conjunctival portion of the eye. Automatically he will close his, he will blink the eyelids. So that is blink reflex, that is conjunctival. Similarly you do that for corneal conjunctival junction, that is limbus. You touch with the cotton wisp the corneal conjunctival junction called limbus, corneal and scleral, corneoscleral junction, limbus, and you touch it. So again the person will blink. So that is the sensory component you are testing, the blinking, corneal reflex and conjunctival reflex. So that completes the fifth cranial nerve. Now we have completed 6 cranial nerves. So first, second, third, fourth, sixth and fifth cranial.